Okay, let's dive into a single day in the not-so-distant future, January 9th, 2026. Because on this one day, two completely different, high-stakes games were being played out at the exact same time. One was a battle for digital territory, and the other, well, that was for physical land.
For most of the world, it was just another Friday. But just beneath the surface of everyday life, this immense pressure was building in two totally separate arenas. One was all digital, run by algorithms and pure adrenaline. The other was playing out on the good old-fashioned physical, geopolitical chessboard.
So first, let's look at that digital battlefield, the super volatile, lightning-fast world of Bitcoin trading. On January 9th, traders were just locked in this incredibly tense standoff, and literally billions of dollars were hanging in the balance.
What traders were watching was basically two conflicting stories playing out at once. You see the chart on the left? That's the weekly view, and it suggested that the long-term trend was still pretty healthy. But the chart on the right, the 4-hour view, that shows the immediate minute-by-minute battle that was creating all the tension.
So the big picture for Bitcoin, it still looks positive. Analysts were seeing what they call a long-term bullish structure, which is just a fancy way of saying the overall trend was still pointing up. But, and this is a big but, that whole trend was being protected by one final line of defense, a crucial support level, kind of like a price floor, right around the $89,000 mark.
Now for the buyers, the bulls, as they're called, this was the magic number. If the price could just decisively break above $92,400, that was the signal to attack. That was the trigger that could send the price absolutely soaring.
On the flip side, though, you have the danger zone. If the price fell below $89,000, that was a huge warning sign. It meant the sellers, or the bears, were taking control, and a really sharp, painful drop could be right around the corner.
And this was the prize. If the buyers could pull off that breakout past $92,400, their ultimate target was just shy of $100,000. That price was the next major resistance level. Think of it like a ceiling they needed to shatter.
So here's the bottom line. On that one day, January 9th, the market was perfectly coiled, just like a spring, ready for a massive move. And everything, everything, depended on which of those two numbers, 92,400 or 89,000, broke first. It was a purely digital battle of numbers and nerve.
So that was the digital war. But while that battle of milliseconds and algorithms was raging, a much older, much slower game of territory and power was playing out at the very same time, way up in the frozen north.
Yeah, on that exact same day, the international news cycle was just completely dominated by one story. President Trump's administration was seriously escalating its pressure to acquire the massive strategic island of Greenland from Denmark.
And a quote from just the day before shows you how serious this was. On January 8th, Vice President J.D. Vance issued this very direct, unambiguous warning to European allies, making it crystal clear that this wasn't just some passing thought, it was a major foreign policy objective.
This all begs the question, right? Why Greenland? Why was this seemingly remote, icy island all of a sudden at the center of a global power struggle? Why did the U.S. want it so badly? Well, for the United States, Greenland is an absolutely critical piece of the global puzzle. It's a vital location for missile defense systems. It's a key checkpoint to counter growing Russian and Chinese military presence in the Arctic. And as the ice melts, it opens up access to vast natural resources and brand new shipping lanes. And the White House was clear that the option of using military force was not off the table.
And the crazy thing is, this wasn't some slow-burning issue that had been simmering for years. The situation had just exploded in a matter of days. On the 7th, the White House confirmed the talks. On the 8th, you have the meetings and that public warning. And by January 9th, the same day the Bitcoin traders were on a knife's edge, it had become a full-blown international diplomatic standoff.
So why are we looking at these two very different stories together? What's the connection? Well, it's because on that single day, they reveal these parallel realities of power, territory, and conflict in our modern world.
This really frames the contrast perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the digital battlefield. The arena is a global crypto exchange, the players are traders, and fortunes are made or lost in milliseconds over digital capital. On the other side, you've got the geopolitical chessboard, a game played by superpowers over decades, and the stakes are actual physical land.
One of these battles was totally virtual, abstract, immediate, a fight over numbers on a screen. The other was physical, historical, and long-term, a struggle over lines on a map, and both of them were reaching a boiling point at the exact same time.
On that day, January 9th, 2026, these two worlds were colliding.
And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought for the future. As our lives become more and more digital, will the battles fought over code and capital on a screen become more important than the age-old struggles for land and borders? Which map is going to define power next?